Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com, your home for learning how to play minor chords today. But seriously, this is your home for learning how to play mandolin, banjo, guitar. I put out a new video lesson like this every week over at BanjoBenClark.com. I'm glad that you've joined me. Okay, so a lot of people get intimidated with finding minor chords on the mandolin. I get a lot of questions about that. So today's lesson's really imperative for helping you to learn how to do that. We're going to look at 6 or 7 open string minor chords, okay, just like that G minor chord that I played for you there, or an A minor chord or whatever it may be. But the coolest thing about this lesson is we're going to take these patterns that we're going to learn in the open string chords and learn how to move them up to find whatever minor chord you want. So that if you're way up the neck, you need to find a C minor chord, there it is. Or you're way up here, you need to find a D minor, there it is. Okay, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, here in a little while, I'll ask you to jump over to my website, BanjoBenClark.com, where thousands of you have. Thank you so much. You can go over there and find hundreds of lessons on banjo, mandolin, guitar, just like this one, as well as download a tab. I have a nifty little tab here for this minor chord study that shows you everything you ever need to know about mandolin minor chords. Let's dive into it now. Let's talk minor chords. Okay, we're not just going to talk about how to play them, but we're also going to talk about the theory behind them and also how to find them quickly. A lot of people get intimidated with minor chords, especially when you're playing maybe rhythm up the neck, say if you're playing the key of B, and all of a sudden you're looking for a G sharp minor chord, you're like, oh no, what do I do? Well, after we get done with this lesson, you'll be able to just jump and find the minor chord that you need to find. All right? So we're going to start out with these open chords down here, and I'm going to go ahead and throw the tab up there. And as you can see, there's some notes that are outlined in that green that are highlighted there. Those are the root notes of the chords. And why that's important, because later on when we're getting up the neck, we're going to need to know where those roots are, so that if you want to find, say, a C minor chord, okay, and you know where a C note is, well then you can find the minor chord that goes along with that. It'll make sense as we go along. Don't worry. Okay, let's just look at our regular G minor chord. This is probably one of the simplest minor chords to find. We're going to take this position later on and learn how to work it up the neck. But it starts out with just 2 open strings, G and D. We've got our first fret down on our A string and our 3rd fret down on our high E string there. Okay, and then you'll notice which notes are highlighted. We've got that bottom note. It's a G string, right? So a G note, and that's the root of the G minor chord. Same thing up here. That's also a G note. So that's also our root of this minor chord. Good. Okay. Now our A minor, which is really simple too, we're going to just bar the first 2 frets on our low 2 strings here with our index finger. I'm just going to kind of turn our index finger sideways a little bit. Try to play both of those strings with 1 finger. If that's too tough, maybe you can fit 2 fingers in there. And then play open strings here on the 1st and 2nd string. Okay. Now a minor chord has our root note. Okay, that's what we have outlined here. And then what makes a minor chord different from a major chord is that the 3rd tone of the chord, okay, or the scale, is flatted 1, okay? And so we have our root, which is the 1st tone, our flatted 3rd, and then we have our 5th tone of the scale. Now this particular A minor chord, it's known as a power chord, which means it doesn't have that minor 3rd in there, it just has the 1st and the 5th. So A, E, A, E. So actually, all that to say, this chord would actually work good for a major chord as well. It fits with major, and it would fit with minor. Okay. Now when we get into the B minor chord, we're going to use this position up the neck as well. But we're going to have the 4th fret depressed down here on the low G string, an open D string, and then bar the 2nd frets of the first 2, the A and the E string. So it sounds like this. Okay. That's a cool sounding chord. We're going to go into our C minor chord, and this one we're going to have an open G string down here. Then we're going to play the 1st fret on the D string, and then what I'll typically do here is bar the 3rd frets of the A and E string with my ring finger, kind of flatten it out. Sounds like this. Okay. going to use that one up the neck as well. Okay, now we've got our D minor chord. Okay, so with this one, we're going to start with our 2nd fret down here on the G string, then have an open D and A string, and then play our 1st fret on the E string. So it sounds like this. Okay, there's lots of different ways to play these minor chords, but these are just basic ways to play them while using open strings. Good. In E minor, it's probably one of the most easy to play as well, but we've got an open G string, then we're going to bar, using that index finger, the 2nd frets of the D and A string, and then leave our E string open up here, so it sounds like this. And then I gave you an alternate way to play that, because we're going to use this alternate way to play these minor chords and find them up the neck. But that's where you just bar these two, and then also cover the 4th fret of that low G string with your middle finger. Okay, we just got one more open chord to learn, then we're going to learn how to take all these up the necks to find whatever minor chords you want to find. I got this F sharp minor chord. Start off with our ring finger on the 6th fret of that low G string. Then we get the root, the F sharp note, right here on the 4th fret of the D. And then we've got an open A, and then 2nd fret here on the E string. That's another F sharp note. So it sounds like this. We're going to use this one up the neck as well. Okay, as we get into measure 9 there, what we're going to do is we're going to take this basic G minor position that we've already learned, and we're going to learn how to take that up the neck. Okay, now I know it's G minor because of my root notes. We talked about our root notes. So we've got that as a root, that's a G note. This 3rd fret up here is a G note. So whenever we play this pattern, that's a G minor chord. Now, if we take this same pattern and we move it anywhere up the neck, then those 2 notes are going to be the root notes of whatever minor chord we have. So let's just take everything here in that G minor position and let's move it up 2 frets. Everything. That includes our open notes. Okay, so let's start down here on our open G string. It was open. If we're going to move it up 2 frets, we would bring it up to the 2nd fret. And then our D string was open. Let's bring it up to the 2nd fret. We played our 1st fret on the A string. Let's bring it up to the 3rd fret. And then we played our 3rd fret, which was the root note, on the E string. Let's bring it up to the 5th fret. If we bring everything up 2 frets, it looks like this. We're going to bar the first 2 strings down here with our index finger on the 2nd fret. Then we're going to play the 3rd fret here on the A string with our middle, and then with our pinky we're going to grab this 5th fret. You see what I've done? I took that G minor position, I scooted these 2 up, and then I covered my open strings up 2 frets as well. And what did that do? What's 2 frets above, or a whole note, whole step above a G? What's A? It's an A minor chord, as you can see there in measure 11. And we know that it's an A minor chord because our low note here is an A note. And our top note up here, the 5th fret, is an A note. Now how can that help us? Well, now we know we have this position. If I need to find any minor chord, all I have to do is find the name of that minor chord and then make sure that my pinky's on it or my index finger's on it, and I've found it. For example, look there in measure 12. Let's say that we needed to play a D minor chord and we wanted to play it up the neck. Well, can we find a D note? I bet that we can. We can either try to find it with our finger down here, or we can find it up here. Let's find a D note with our finger here. Well, where's that at? It's actually on the 7th fret. We know that because we have a D string here, open D string, and the 7th fret's the same tone. Okay, so now all we have to do, I know that if I found my D note, that I just need to make this position that we've already learned, and it should be a D minor chord. So 7, 7, we're going to bar, and then 8, 10. And listen, there's a good old D minor chord. It sounds really similar to our open D minor chord we learned. Hear the similarities? So all I did was took my G minor position, the open position, and then scooted it up 2 frets to find an A minor. We could scoot everything up 1 more fret to find a B flat minor, a B minor, a C minor, C sharp minor, D minor. okay? You can just go all the way up the neck and find whichever minor chord you want. But this isn't the only position that does that. Let's check out 4 more positions that allow you to move up the neck.